What are your thoughts about the likes of Ayaan Hirsi Ali, Charles Murray, and other people right of center suddenly finding Jesus after considering themselves atheists or secular and moving into Christianity while claiming it as the bedrock of Western values?
Hmm. Well, I've avoided commenting on this specifically in many contexts.
And I think your Substack fans know this, which is why
Yeah.
they've asked this again and again.
Well, I mean, so first, I never want to say anything about uh, Ion that is derogatory. I mean, I think Ion is just a straight up hero to me, and she should be to women everywhere. I mean, I think that's just the ground truth of where I think she should sit in people's minds. But she's not perfect, right? And I don't think her defense of her conversion to Christianity makes much sense. Um, Certainly, she didn't give any reasons why she now believes that Christian doctrine is true, right? I mean, what you have in the case of many people is the argument that we as a society need an attachment to Christianity or some other faith to resist the slide into Islamic theocracy on the one hand, or just a secular wasteland of meaninglessness and porn addiction and distraction and social media poisoning on the other, right? So it's how do you have a good life in the modern world and resist the barbarians at the gate? The barbarians here being the Islamist hordes that are invading Western Europe, and uh, Ion is especially in touch with that problem. Many people think you need good Christian soldiers to do this on some level. I reject that idea. I think it's almost certainly not true. But even if it were true, it wouldn't give you any reason to believe that Jesus was born of a virgin or rose from the dead or will be coming back to judge the living and the dead, and et cetera. So it just simply does not provide a reason to believe anything that Christians must believe in order to be Christians. So that's the problem that Ion and Douglas Murray and anyone else who would tend to make these kinds of noises, that there's a social and civilizational importance for doubling down on Christianity as a kind of bulwark against this civilizational unraveling on the one hand, or civilizational clash with Islam on the other. Um, it just doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. It's not accurate, psychologically or spiritually or in any other way. Um, Charles Murray, I haven't read Charles Murray's book, but I think he's just taking a different angle here. I think he's 80 years old or thereabouts, and coming to view his life, the broad sweep of his life. And I think I've heard him talk about his book a little bit. I think he's just acknowledging that there's a if not a God-shaped hole, some kind of hole in the middle of his life as he perceives it, that could and should be filled by faith. And I think he's taken instruction from his wife, who's religious, and he notices he's always envied her that capacity. Um, Again, and I'm going to talk to Ross Douthat uh, eventually here too. I'm sure we're going to cover this ground because he's written a book uh, on the necessity of belief, which I haven't read yet, but it's on the stack. Um, Anyone who's making these particular claims just strikes me as someone who doesn't know how to meditate on some level. That's really it really is the problem. If you think that you need to believe something about the divine origin of a book in order to get the juice out of life, there's certain experiences you obviously haven't had, right? You're just not you don't know how to pay attention sufficiently to recognize that your own mind is the circumstance of a real collision with reality that it doesn't lack for profundity, right? You don't have to go to the old book to find out what's profound. You don't have to read the story of, fictional or otherwise, of someone else's spiritual adventures, and then merely place faith in those so as to redeem an otherwise, fragmented and unsatisfying, life circumstance. No, there's actually you can confront the absolute mystery of being directly with your attention if you can only break the spell of your thoughts and pay attention. And that's what meditation is for. I mean, what one could say in a theistic context, on some level, that's what prayer is for. That's what the contemplative Christian life is for, or the Jewish one, or the Muslim one. Um, there are disciplines of attention that any contemplative engages that take them out of the superficiality of the rest of their lives. But the problem with the Christian and Jewish and Muslim variants is that all of those disciplines are engaged within a context of belief that is dualistic and propitiatory and just drenched in myth and what I would view as conceptual confusion, right? And the need of believing the preposterous there is so front and center and never really leaves. It's not to say that Christian and Jewish and Muslim contemplatives don't have extraordinary experiences, but insofar as they do, they begin to sound like Buddhists, right? And that's the problem. Like if you become Meister Eckhart in the Catholic Church, starts to wonder whether or not they should burn you alive, as they were getting ready to do before he died. Um, and so it is in the Muslim uh, tradition, right? I mean, someone like Rumi can only speak so sanely before life becomes dangerous, and the Sufis generally are looked at as heretics anyway under Islam. So it's just that the contemplative wisdom has not been spread equally over the surface of the earth and given to every culture equally in the same way that scientific wisdom wasn't 100 years ago or 200 years ago. Um, and yeah, so all these guys just don't. All these guys need a couple of psychedelic experiences and then real instruction in how to pay attention to the nature of their minds, and they wouldn't be thinking that the best thing ever written on these matters was in the Bible. I mean, there's no way to think that if you know how to pay attention.
So you don't think we'll ever outgrow religion? So if, AI delivers
No, I
utopia.
think we will. I mean, I think I certainly think it has eroded and will continue to erode. There are hundreds of questions upon which religion used to be an authority, but that authority has now been ceded to science, or a secular understanding of what's real. Uh, I would say there are no questions that used to be in the province of science and secular rationality that have been ceded back to religion as the authority, right? So it's like, I mean, just to take an obvious example, it's like you know the notion of demonic possession, to account for epilepsy, right? It's like we didn't understand neurology at all. We see someone flopping around on the ground, we assume that's demonic possession because that's we're in a pre-scientific, religiously bamboozled context, and that's how we describe it. But once you get a science of neurology, then you now understand what's happening here. There are some stragglers. There's some people still left thinking, well, maybe that is demonic possession, even if though we now call it epilepsy. But no, actually, we know enough about epilepsy now that's never getting ceded back to religion, right? I mean, and there's going to be a thousand more things like that, where it's just a unidirectional conquest of real estate that where a scientific or secular understanding of what's going on is going to claim the territory and never give it back.